I'm your chair, Doreen Deshler. Tonight was meant to be a debate between the local Republican and Democrat candidates. However, after several attempts of contacting, inviting, and leaving messages to all the candidates, only the Republican candidates responded and agreed to the debate. Our Democrat candidates did not reach out to us or return any of our phone calls, and so all our efforts to contact them failed. The Chelmsford Democrat Town Committee was invited to co-host this event, but failed to attend any of the meetings, stay in contact with us, or answer any phone calls. So it's just the Republican Town Committee hosting this event. In order not to disappoint our audience or our local Republican candidates who did respond and commit to being here tonight, we will be holding a question and answer event for our Republican candidates. Our local Republican candidates are, from the 16th Middlesex District, Karla Miller. From the 2nd Middlesex District, Dr. Raymond Xie. And from the 14th Middlesex District, Rodney Cleaves. Each will have 5 minutes to introduce themselves to our audience, and then we will take a short break. When we reconvene, we will begin with questions from the Chelmsford Republican Town Committee to our distinguished candidates, presented by our moderator, Gail Leonard. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to answer the question. Our timekeeper, Paul Rigaggio, will flag the candidates to let candidates know if they are close to going over the 3-minute limit. We will then take a short break so that our moderator can collect the audience's questions. There are index cards, as you can see, on the tables. Please write your questions on it and pass it to the end of the tables so that our collectors, Neil Atkins and Lincoln Clark, can gather them. When we reconvene, Mary Gail will present the audience questions to the candidates or candidate the question is directed to. Again, 3 minutes will be given to answer the question. Please, when we begin, no yelling out. We must remain respectful to all of our candidates. I also ask at this time if everyone could please set your phone to silent and turn them off. Thank you all for coming, and I hope this night is informative and enlightening to you all. Thank you. If you could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Mary Gail, can you please come up?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm Mary Gail Leonard, Vice Chair. And so, welcome, everybody. And Karla, I'd like to start with you.
Okay.
If you could do a bio.
Okay. I'm just going to talk about why I'm running and that kind of thing.
And also, could you tell everyone what towns you cover?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi. So the 16th Middlesex District is North Chelmsford. Oh, can you hear me? It's on.
Mine's not. Oh, it is?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Hello?
The 16th Middlesex District is North Chelmsford, the Westlands. In Lowell, it's Pawtucketville and Centerville. I'd like to start with letting you know that unlike career politicians who lose sight of why they first get elected, my interest in running for office is to make a difference by solving problems. My goal is to be an advocate for my constituents, especially in being relentless to ensure my district receives funding for needed infrastructure and community projects. That means constant contact and communication with city leaders. I appreciate the hardworking people of the state and identify with those suffering from high taxes and inflation. The cost of living is through the roof in this state, and we are outpacing the rest of the country. I want to bring common sense policies and traditional value back to the Commonwealth and work diligently to secure a brighter future by preserving our freedom. A native of Chelmsford, I have resided in Lowell for over 20 years. I'm married with a daughter and a granddaughter. As a businesswoman, I am financially responsible, fiscally conservative, and a problem solver. My qualities of hard work ethics, passionate dedication, integrity will allow me to tackle the tough issues we are facing today head-on. I wanted to thank you for inviting me and then giving me the opportunity to speak here tonight.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Rodney.
Mayor Gail, I'm going to say thank you for inviting me, and thank you, that was a good question. This one only time. Next time, I'm going to head right into it. Rod Cleaves, U.S. State Representative, Middlesex 14th Representative. I guess the best thing I can say about my resume is I've been around for about 70 some odd years. After leaving high school, I went into the Air Force. And then I became a technologist. I worked in the high-tech industry for 47 years, sorry. Roughly half of that time I was in the private industry. Roughly half that time I worked for the federal government. So I've seen both sides of the coin. During my time, I gathered a few degrees. Someone said I collected degrees as a hobby. And that during that time, while in industry and while being trained, my wife and I hosted nearly 500 foster children. We also hosted no fewer than 4 families who were down on their luck. One is with us right now. A woman, her boyfriend, their child, and 2 dogs. So if you think my house is quiet after all these years, you have another thing coming. I'm in this race specifically because I'm tired of the one-party rule that the other party thinks they own. They can do anything they want, anytime they want, and they have a completely veto-proof majority. And if anyone's seen the ad I taped yesterday, and we tried to send it out to everybody we could, you know that one of the things I said that 90,398 days ago today, boys and men from Carlisle, a great little town, Concord, Acton, and Chelmsford assembled on a bridge in Concord. And they sparked a revolution that changed the entire world. Think about that. The world. Right now, we need another revolution simply for the city of Boston. Send us, all 3 of us, to Boston, please. And we will force a vigorous debate on every issue. We will spark a revolution in Boston and basically be a thorn in the side of the people that think they can rule over us right now. We had tyranny back then. We seem to have tyranny now. That's not how democracy is supposed to work. That's my intro.
Thank you, Rod. Xie.
Hello, everyone. First, my name is Raymond Xie. I'm running for state representative in the 2nd Middlesex District in Massachusetts. That includes Littleton, Westford, and part of Chelmsford. I'd like to thank Mary, Doreen, Dean, Teresa, and the Republican Town Committee in Chelmsford for organizing this event so that we have the opportunity to share and have the transparent information exchange with voters. So my background, obviously, I'm the first-generation immigrant. I think my journey and my experience is a great testimony how America, this country, treated immigrant. If you work hard, then you can earn a living and you can enjoy the freedom here. I grew up in China, primarily in 1970s and 80s. At that time, there was almost the end of the Chinese socialism and communism experiment in the first 30 years. So I've seen how when a country fall into the trap of socialism and communism, how quickly your freedom can be destroyed and how quickly the country can run into poverty. Luckily, China opened its door, I think, in 70s and primarily in 1980s. And there was more talk about freedom. There was more talking about political reform. There's more free speech being available in 1980s. I was a student in college in 1980s. That was background of the Tiananmen Square, happened in 1989. Before that, there was at least a few years of student protest and movement demanding government reform, fight corruption, and really, in addition to the social and economic change, people are demanding political reform. So that was leading to the Tiananmen Square event. I joined the protest. That was almost like 6 weeks of protest in Beijing. And it was crushed down by the tyranny government at that time. And I decided to leave China soon after. I went to Canada to pursue my postgraduate education. I gained a PhD in industrial engineering in Dalhousie University in Halifax, Canada. That was 1999. Then I moved to Massachusetts in year 2000. I raised my 2 kids here along with my wife. I work in a high-tech industry since year 2000, primarily in telecommunication and energy management industry. I have 3 patents in telecommunications. But in addition to, have a good job and make a living in Massachusetts, I started to learn U.S. history. I was baptized as a Christian in year 2003 and started to involve into a church mission projects, teaching Sunday school. I was appointed as a church elder in 2013. It's a church in Chelmsford. It's called the Chinese Bible Church of Greater Lowell. So if you drive on 110, the site is called Hunter Square. So you may pass by my church from time to time. And so the reason I'm running is that for the last few years, I've seen the primarily, I believe, the old kind of the freedom, the great tradition of this country is being taken away step by step. I'm an advocate for free economy. I'm an advocate for free speech. I support medical freedom as well. There are so many things happening so quickly in the last few years. I think people tend to forget that the foundation of this country is our Constitution. And that is something, when I was naturalized in 2013, I vowed to protect Constitution. And so the First Amendment is so important to me, the free speech, free press, free to petition, free to protest, along with the Second Amendment as well. People has a right to defend themselves. What I would like to bring to the table to Massachusetts State House is that I'd like to bring free economy, solve the basically affordability issues, and also public safety issues. My time is over. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Okay, so Karla, I think we'll start with you for the first question.
Okay.
Okay. Are you in favor of voter ID?
Uh-huh.
And based on your answer, why?
Okay.
I'm sorry. Are you in favor of voter ID? And yes or no, and why?
Okay. I am absolutely in favor of voter ID. And probably about 5 years ago, I went to the State House in Boston, And I spoke about it in front of a panel of legislators that, were on, the subject was about voting in particular. I feel very strongly about it. I don't even know how anyone could say that it suppresses votes. Every single one of us should be able to go to the polls and vote and know that our vote is going to count. And the way to do that is by using an ID. The last election, I got this information when I was gathering signatures. There were people that told me that they went to vote and their name was already crossed off and they were told that they already voted. That should never happen, ever. And I can't, they keep saying that it suppresses votes. How? How does it suppress votes? I don't understand. I think we should go back to paper ballots. I think we should go back to voting days, one voting day. And I absolutely do not think we should be using mail-in ballots. We can go back to the absentee ballots. And if someone can't make it to the polls for whatever reason, I can't, there's got to be a system where they can call their local town hall or their city hall and get a pass. But right now, there are ballots out there that have been mailed, or I should say that there are the requests for ballots that have been mailed to homes that people have told me that their wife passed away 16 years ago. They have a mail-in request for them. They have 3 kids that have, one was in New Hampshire, one is in Texas, one is in California. They have requests for those, also for them. They never seem to clean up the voter rolls. They never seem to take the people that have passed away off the voter rolls. Why not? To me, that seems like a pretty easy thing to do. So that's how I feel about the whole situation. I mean, I someone give me a reason why can't we use ID? And it doesn't have to be a license. It can be a voter ID from the state if you don't have a driver's license. But anyway, we should make it as secure as we can, because it's really important. It's our vote. It's our one vote, one person, one vote.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you. Rodney?
Same question?
Same question, please.
Well, the short answer is yes. I'm in favor of voter ID, and I'm going to take that one tiny step further. I also believe we should have serialized ballots, not to track the voter who used the ballot, but in case there's an audit. If, let's say, the Chelmsford 9th precinct got 25,120 through 25,000, whatever the next number would be, and they found several ballots with the same number or ballots outside the precinct, then that's obviously a fraud. And I agree with Karla in that it doesn't have to be a specialized ID, a driver's license, a utility bill, Social Security card, whatever you have. Just something that proves you are who you say you are. And I was a poll worker in Maynard when I lived there for about 10 years, and I was a poll worker here in Chelmsford for about a year. And during that time, I found plenty of fraud. Don't tell me fraud doesn't happen or that it's just transient. One day I went to vote, and I gave them my address like we all do, and you see the names under your address. And 3 of my foster daughters, all from Africa, none of which were citizens. In fact, 2 of them didn't even have green cards. One did. They were all registered to vote under my household. And it turns out when they went down to get their state ID, they were asked if they wanted to vote. They didn't know any better. They said, sure. So they signed them up. And then I was a greeter right here in North Chelmsford just last year. A man showed up, and he showed me his driver's license. Technically, he doesn't have to. And as a greeter, I'm not required I'm not asked to challenge anybody. He gave me a driver's license, and I said, oh, I know this guy. I won't tell you who he was, but I know this man. I know his address. And the man said, well, I'm his son. And I'm thinking, he doesn't have a son that I know of. And he went in. And then later that day, I was in the position of check-in. And my friend came in. He just happened to be in the precinct I was working at. This is all happenstance. And he checked in, and he was allowed to vote. I mean, he wasn't redlined because he was, claimed to have voted. So whoever checked in under this man's name voted under somebody else's name. And I have the experience of my own eyes to know that that happened. Now, I'm gonna take a little bit of a left turn. You all have True ID on your driver's license. Do you know why you have True ID? In 2011, the federal government decided that it should examine each state and how they control their voter rolls and their ID requirements. Massachusetts was sixth on the list from the bottom. That's why you have True ID. I have no confidence, I have no confidence in this state's ability to track someone's ID or their natural citizenship or their vetted citizenship. And we're trying to put vetting for citizenship in the hands of the RMV. That goes to another issue. But yes, voter ID and ballot serialization. That's one of the planks of my platform. And I've been saying that since the day I took over this campaign.
Thank you, Roy.
Yeah. So my answer is yes. 45 out of 46 European countries have voter ID. Let's keep in mind. I recently reviewed the electoral integrity rating, a report, a study, a research being published by University of Sydney in May 2019. And United States, our country is rated really poorly. We are below most of the European countries. Keep in mind, this electoral integrity study has covered very thoroughly, not only voter ID, but also, voter registration, how to count vote, campaign finance, campaign policies, and so on and so forth. So it's very thorough. We are below most of the European countries. We are below many of the Asian countries, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan. The ratings are higher than us. Even in our continent, Americas, we are out of the top 10. Can you imagine that? We are below, certainly Canada, we are below Brazil, we are below Costa Rica, and we're on par with Mexico. There's something, the data is not lying. That's something we need to improve. So voter ID is one of the things we can do. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Moderator, can I have 5 more seconds, please? Paul stopped me before. I just want to say on the True ID thing, the government foisted that onto us in 2014. Massachusetts was the very last state to finally implement it. And that's why I don't trust our rules.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, the second question, I think we'll start, Rodney. So Massachusetts will ban the state of new cars powered by gasoline and other fossil fuels by 2035. Do you support the elimination of gas-fueled vehicles being sold or purchased in Massachusetts?
Really? I thought only California was doing something that stupid.
We're doing
2
that,
weeks
too.
after
Okay.
California announced it, Massachusetts jumped on that bandwagon.
Well, I think you might have already heard my answer. Something that stupid. What people are forgetting is that whether you call it God or the universe or the sun, all of our energy comes from one place. The sun moves our winds. The sun provides solar power. The sun provides the rain. It provides the uranium if we want to go with nuclear power. All that energy we're using to drive our cars comes from someplace. And it's up to us to be good stewards of our environment and balance it out somehow. No, I would not be in favor of any initiative that forces us to use electric vehicles. I may be able to charge my car up in Chelmsford, but where's the energy coming from? Is it going to be some someplace out in Gardner, and I'm going to pollute their air because the energy is coming from there. I've already bought 30 solar panels for my house, and it helps in paying for my bills. But the idea that we're somehow are saving the planet because we're moving the energy production from here to here to here to here, and now we get to feel better because we're driving a car that's quiet and isn't producing any emissions. Personally, if it were up to me, I'd go back to hybrids. Nobody's talking about hybrids. I had a Prius for 2 years. I really missed the 72 miles per gallon. What that meant is that I'm talking about this. Balance. I only had to fill up my tank once a month because the gas in my tank charged the batteries in my car through the gas engine, but then when the gas engine wasn't needed, it shut itself off and I ran on the batteries. But if I needed to accelerate or go up a hill, the gas engine kicked in and I used a little bit of a sip of gas. Are we going to ravage the earth to get lithium to build our batteries and then throw them away into the dirt pile again? Fossil fuels are a finite resource. I understand that. And that finite source probably is going to wear out sometime between the next 200 and 300 years from what I heard. So let's use what we can, but extend its life as far as possible and give ourselves time to develop the proper resources to use it efficiently. Like I said, the hybrid sounds nice. Maybe hydrogen cars will go. I'm scared to death to have a bottle of hydrogen in my car. It's even more volatile than the gas. But maybe that's a way to look at it. But we have time to develop these resources. We just can't say, I don't like fossil fuels, and go, turn it off. It's not going to work that way. Nobody's looking at the long-term consequences, and nobody's deciding how do people actually conduct their lives on a day-to-day basis with all the resources they do have. And one more thing. I'm afraid you're going to be hearing one-sided answers from us up here. Yeah. I'd give anything to have someone to debate with. But anyway, that's the way it is. Thought that would get a bigger clap.
Okay. All right, so I'm the next. Yeah, no, I think I understand the goal, but it doesn't make sense to do something that soon, like eliminate all the fossil fuel power cars in just 10, 15 years. I think you need to really look at the working class people, the farmers. It's very Massachusetts is very different from California, right? We are on the west side. We have people who living on mountains or farms. They have to drive quite a significant amount of time to get to a gas station, and the infrastructure is just not there. And second, there is also a debate if electric cars are truly green. The minerals is being produced in developing countries, in Africa, and Asian countries. Sometimes they use child labor as well. And also how to recycle those batteries. I'm an engineer. A typical, family electric car is average, I believe, 800 pounds heavier than fossil fuel power cars, and the energy has to come from somewhere, right? So overall, I think I would welcome, competition, debate, so that we have the best strategy to go there. I understand the green initiative. I work for an energy management company, so I fully support the goal. But then, how to get there? I think we need to do it in a more scientific way and more strategic way. Thank you.
Thank you. Karla Miller?
Yes, I agree with both of these gentlemen. We do not have the technology that we need right now to go green. And when there is not a plan in place to go green. Right now, climate change equals poverty for us. And we may be seeing that this winter. And a lot of us in this room might be able to get through this, but there are other people that are not going to be able to get through this. They are, I don't know why they are doing this at this point, why they shut down our fossil fuel industry. And the people that are really pushing this are politicians. I want to hear from the climatologists. I want to hear from the scientists. I want them to be on TV telling us what the politicians are telling us, if it's true, that we only have, we've heard as little as 12 years left, which is crazy. This is coming from people who don't know what they're talking about. You look at someone like John Kerry, our climate czar, who's been very quiet, by the way, since, people complained about him flying around in his jet. And look at all the elites that are on board, totally on board with this, but they all have private jets. Why aren't those grounded? Why aren't their yachts docked? Why is this coming down again on the middle class and people, poor people that can't afford? I go door knocking and people are telling me how much they're paying for their oil. Now than compared to what they're paying for before. This is, and this doesn't have to happen. We were energy independent. And the last administration had us energy independent. And if this is, I'll be the first one on board. If this is true and this is going to happen, we need to ease into it. To bring up John Kerry again, according to him, I saw the clip recently, I don't know how long ago he said this, if China, India, and Russia do not cooperate, then there is no sense. What happened to that? They want to transform this country in the name of climate change, and they're destroying the country in the name of climate change. Electric cars are too expensive, and we cannot say in, I don't know how many years it is, but by 2035 that we're not going to be able to buy a gas-fueled car. To me, that's really a stretch. The other thing that it does is these cars do is they drain our electrical grid. So over the last holiday weekend in California, the governor there asked people not to drive their electric cars because he was afraid that they'd lose electricity. Well, they're talking too about us having brownouts, blackouts this winter. The other thing is windmills. Oh, I'm out of time? Oh, I didn't. Sorry.
He's very efficient.
I know. I didn't realize I talked that much. Okay.
Okay, Dr. Xie, I'll give you the next question to start.
Sure.
During COVID, with virtual learning, parents were more closely involved in their children's classroom. Many angry parents objecting to non-academic education of their children flooded school board meetings, and some were told that parents did not have a say in their own children's curriculum. As a new legislature, what would you do to try to recover the trust the parents once had in the Massachusetts education system?
Yeah, this is a great question. I have been knocking on doors since this May. A lot of parents talking to me and worry about what's going on in the school, especially curriculum in the last 3-4 years, and going into a pandemic in the last 2 years, it just made things worse because of the remote learning. And what I would say is that parent is very important in the education process of their children. That is, when I grew up, my parents are good examples because every day I saw how they behave, how they treat us, and how they would work hard and talk about different priorities, talk about life lessons. Those are invaluable experience. And some of the curriculums like being pushed by the Massachusetts, what's it called, like health department or the youth health department, to public schools are questionable because of the I'm just worried about that if it's age appropriate. I'm against the early sexualization of our children. I'm against some of the like talks about I think too early go into some of the topics that children is a lifelong decision. For example, in terms of gender transition, that's a very important decision that you like kids do not fully understand, and you really need parents to get involved. I'm really against those policies that right now I think it's happening more in California than in Massachusetts, because in Massachusetts right now the town does have a say. The town has kind of the freedom to say that I'm not implementing the policy yet, but just learn lessons from California, that a lot of lawsuit going on because if a kid went through this is a non-reversible procedure sometimes to change gender, and parent was not aware of, and it caused permanent damage to our valuable children. So that's really I think the main thing I'm concerned about. But of course, school funding, all those things are very important as well. Thank you.
Karla, the same question.
So I don't know if I follow Jeff Deal, and I get his emails on, and I keep up with what he's saying and what they're doing. And just as a matter of fact, today I read the email concerning the Parents' Bill of Rights that they're putting out there, and I totally agree with it. I mean, these are, I don't know how else to say it except for these are crazy times. We have never had to go through anything like this before. And so just to give you some of the things that I jotted down when I read that was they want to have a Bill of Rights, and I think it's to let's have a clear sense, everybody, the teachers and the parents, of what's going to happen here, so there's no argument, and there's and everybody is on the same page. They want to expand. One of the things they want to do is expand school choice, because if this continues, then these parents should have the right to, decide where their kids are going to go to school, or if they're going to homeschool them, and the money should follow the child. They also don't want to have. They want to get rid of the COVID vaccine mandates. They want to remove those. They want parental informed consent. Of course, they should have that. These are your children. They don't belong to the state. They don't belong to the government. They want open meeting law protections. They also want school safety, which I don't know if anybody's talking about school safety yet. After the last horrific school shooting, is anything happening? Is any safety been implemented in the schools? I thought they would have done that after the first school shooting. They want, in this Bill of Rights, curriculum oversight, comprehensive agency audits, judicial oversight, and, I think that a lot of the parents are going to be more hands-on now, which I think is a good thing. But I think, I think the teachers need to be brought into the loop, because we don't want to have it being the teachers against the parents. I think the unions are really the ones that seem to be pushing these things, but they don't make any sense.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Karla. Rodney?
Would you mind repeating the question just so I get it right?
During COVID, with virtual learning, parents were more closely involved in their children's classroom. Many angry parents objecting to non-academic education of their children flooded school board meetings, and some were told that parents did not have a say in their children's curriculum. As a new legislature, what would you do to recover the trust parents once had in the Massachusetts education system?
It's a shame we can't rescind history. Never can. And I thought you said what I thought you said. I have a daughter at home, and some of you met her. She's a special needs girl. She has a vision and comprehension issue that made at-home schooling on the screen of her computer virtually impossible. It just didn't work. She basically sat around bored for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And when my wife and I tried to assist by saying things like, well, you have to do your classes at the dining room table instead of your room, or you got to sit at the island in the kitchen or whatever, the school said you can't expect her to do that. She has to be mature enough to do it herself. Simple fact is, she had no ability to do it. So my daughter lost 2 years of school, roughly 2 years. And I'm going to ask for a round of applause now, because after a 7-year battle with the Chelmsford school system, we actually got her into the very school we always wanted to get her into. And in the last 4 months, she's progressed almost 3 years academically. So please, for my daughter. I can't say the name of the school because they'd be inundated. But Chelmsford Center there. No, it didn't work. Now, how do we get it back? How does the state legislate something like that to get them back? I'm not sure, because I'm actually philosophically opposed to the idea of a state or federal Department of Education. I believe it needs to be up to the individual towns. Some of you know I ran for school committee last April and lost. I lost to a candidate who thought it was very important that the school system incorporate critical race theory in virtually all their classes. And that candidate sits on the school board today. Perhaps there's a way we can just simply say no more mandates, no more, medical mandates, the masks and whatnot. And that the school systems must listen to the parents. Because in the end, we have a lot of involved parents that show up at these school committee meetings, and they do their best to have their voices heard, and the school committees are just deaf to it. And many of the school superintendents are deaf to it. In my daughter's case, I'm going to tell you this, and this gets very personal. The special education department in this town the reason it took so long to get her into the school we wanted, they wouldn't even acknowledge her particular condition because they didn't believe it existed. It's rare. But we presented tons and tons of paperwork and doctor's reports and evaluations. They wouldn't believe it because they thought they knew better than we did. No, the state is not your nanny, and you are not its servant. We have to return control back to the individuals and the towns and cities. And I'd be happy if, being a legislator, we put the state out of business. And I know that's not really going to happen.
Thank you, Rodney. Thank you. Now, this is the last question that the Republican committee would like to ask the candidates. And it's in reference to question 1 that's going to be on the ballot. Question 1 would create an additional 4% tax on the portion of income above $1 million for the purpose of providing funds for public education, roads and bridges, and public transportation. The tax would be levied in addition to the state's 5% flat income tax for a total rate of 9% on income above $1 million. The amendment would also authorize the $1 million threshold to be adjusted according to any changes in the cost of living in Massachusetts, using the same method used to establish federal income brackets. The tax would take effect this January 1st of 2023. Karla, would you please address that? Will you be voting yes or no on the millionaire tax ballot question? And if yes, could you comment if this should include the sale of one's own home?
I would absolutely vote no on that. I had a discussion with a sitting state rep about that, and he said that, first of all, they cannot earmark the money. If they do pass this, they cannot earmark that money for roads, bridges, and whatever. And besides that, our government, our federal government, has passed trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of bills with money for infrastructure. I mean, a small, percentage of it was infrastructure, but I'm assuming that we're getting some of that money, and that's what we are going to actually use it for. So I don't know why they are putting that out there. Well, I do know why they're putting that out there, because it entices people to vote for it, because it's going to these great causes. But what's going to happen is the people that are millionaires, that a lot of them own businesses. They're certainly taxpayers. We make it sound like they don't even pay taxes. They do pay taxes in this state. And last year, close to 50,000 people left the state. So what would you do if you were hit with another 4% taxes in your taxes, and in Massachusetts, I think we're number 4, or at least in the top 5 of states in the country that have the highest taxes. It's going to trickle down. It's going to end up trickling down to the middle class. And I absolutely am going to vote no on that question. Did I answer the whole question?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Rodney, how would you vote on question 1 on the ballot?
Oh, I can't confine my answer to 3 minutes. I am unequivocally going to vote no, and I encourage anybody I talk to vote no. From a political and philosophical point of view, I'm opposed to anything that taxes a particular group of people for a particular amount. We've been hearing for years the rich have to pay their fair share. And we've been asking the people that say that to define who's rich and define the fair share. Well, I guess now we know. Anyone who made over $1 million last year, taxable income, granted, should pay an extra 4%. And Karla mentioned one thing, several things actually, that I completely agree with. Most of the people that make that amount of money are not making that entirely on their own. They're hiring people, they're buying things, and the people they hire, by the way, are actually paying taxes. So a person who makes $1 million or more, if you think about it, they're not just simply paying their own flat tax of 5% in this state, let alone what the federal government insists, but their employees are paying taxes and purchasing goods and services in the neighborhood. And my fear is we may not lose every millionaire out of state. I mean, we're going to lose a few, but they're not going to be buying the big ticket items anymore. Some of them may move to Massachusetts, New Hampshire, because they won't have to pay that tax there. But really what it comes down to for me, other than the fair share, the money we might generate, is the idea that it's just wrong, just flat out wrong, to create a constitutional amendment that carves out a special tax for a special group of people. If we want to go back to a stepped income tax, some people call it a progressive, but I really hate using that word. But then let's do that. Someday I want to be a millionaire. Someday I want to sell my business and my house, and I just might make $1 million that year. Why should I be penalized for having worked all my life to get that much value? I know a man who owns an optometry business. I know that he works right up here in North Chelmsford. And he wants to retire in 2 years. And he's hoping he'll get $1.5 million for his business when he finally retires. Now, he may be able to deduct a lot of that and exempt it. But what if he actually ends up making more than $1 million and has to pay that extra 4% just because he worked hard all his life and never once during his life made $1 million? Or whatever. Like, what if you won the lottery tomorrow? Should you have to pay out an extra 4%? I know I don't want to. If I win the lottery, it's going to be the best day of my life. But no, I can't support this bill, not one bit.
Thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
Dr. Xie?
Yes.
How would you vote on that question?
Yeah, I totally agree with Karla and Rolly. They touch upon all the important points. I just want to add that, this sends really a wrong message to homeowners and small business owners as well. They're just working class people like us. But when they do a transaction of their business or sell their homes, they may be a millionaire for for a day or so, and now they're being taxed. I think 5% is fair to everybody right now. You pay 5%. And also, I want to add that this could be a slippery slope. Look at AMT, alternative minimum tax. That was started around 1969. The goal was to tax the extremely rich people at that time and close some loopholes. And look at who's paying AMT right now, right? It's a majority of the middle class people are paying that. So, just look at California, right? This progressive tax. Once we change from the flat to this progressive tax, you can go down, right? This is a constitutional amendment. It's very significant. So I would encourage everyone to take a deeper look and really think from the principle, look at the past history, and make your vote and decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. We value your input. And we're going to take a short break, and I'm going to review the questions that the audience handed down, okay? And we'll take a break, and then we'll come back for more questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I hope everybody enjoyed the snacks and beverages, and thank you to everybody that contributed. So we're off to our second set of questions. Okay, the first question from the audience, I'll direct that to you, Karla. And the question is, crime is exploding in our major cities. What do you plan to do on Beacon Hill with regard to crime?
So in regards to crime, a lot of that will be falling on the governor, and I am hoping that our governor is Jeff Deal, and I'm hoping that he's going to be firing a lot of these attorney generals. What's the other? What do you call the other? The attorney generals that are allowing criminals to get off after they're arrested time and time again. I'm thinking the more local district attorneys. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. That these district attorneys, that a lot of them were funded by George Soros around the country, they need to be fired. I believe that it was done. It has been done in Florida. Governor DeSantis did fire one of their district attorneys, but that's a major problem, and that I would absolutely be on board with that. And I believe that we should also give more money to the police departments. For an example, going back to Florida again, Miami, the new mayor of Miami, he really beefed up the police department, and they have little to no crime there now. So I think that's what we need to do, and obviously we need to get back the people that were fired to give them their jobs back because they were fired because of the COVID mandate. So they all need to be able to come back to their jobs, and we have to go back to honoring the police and helping the police and making sure that they have everything they need to be safe, because it's really, really dangerous out there for them right now. It's almost every day I see another policeman that gets shot and killed, and it's awful. It's a horrific thing that's happened, and again, there was no reason for that to happen. So those are the things that I can think of right now that should be done.
Thank you, Karla. Rodney, how would you handle crime once you get to Beacon Hill?
Oh, wow. You know, there's almost nothing we can do as legislators, and that's sad. You know why? Because the state's attorney general does not work for the governor. A lot of people don't know that. The state's attorney general is independently elected, and then you're stuck with whoever that is for the next 4 years. If you don't like the way that attorney general is behaving, you can't petition the governor or anyone else to impeach that person. Well, they can impeach them, but that's not really practical. The only thing I can imagine is pass and it would be a non-binding resolution to ensure that crimes, big and small, are prosecuted. It's as simple as that. But the state's attorney general doesn't have to listen. If you want to amend the state's constitution, don't pass a millionaire's tax. Put the AG back under the governor where it belongs. That I would support wholeheartedly. But we need to encourage the local police chiefs, irrespective of their direction from the AG, to prosecute every crime. You pull someone over for speeding, don't just say, well, you were speeding, goodbye. Give them a ticket. I would expect a ticket if I was speeding, although I wouldn't be thrilled. But that's the way it works. If I rob a store, someone better arrest me and take me to jail. Oh, it's larceny under $400. Never mind. It's not that important. Great that I can go to Walgreens and get my pain medication without anyone bothering me, and I don't have to pay a dime. No, that's not how it works. That is not absolutely how it works. Prosecute all crimes, and put the AG back under the governor. That's all there is to it.
Thank you, Rodney. Ray, what is your stand on this?
Yes, I'll speak from the angle of an immigrant, let's say, for example, Asian immigrant. We came here, one of the reasons is law and order, right? And the Asian community in general, we have some kind of tradition that is prone to be criminals. For example, Asian tend to have more cash at home. Asian tend to not have gun for self-defense, right? So those crimes, you have seen that in California, in New Jersey, and we are all for law and order, and we really do not support the soft on crime policies from the Democrats' officers. And one thing I will say is that bill has consequences. 2 years ago, we passed police reform bill in Massachusetts. And you just watch news recently. It's hard for police chief to hire police officers across Massachusetts, right? Because of the law removed some of the qualified immunities. The law also requests some of the unfunded training programs that the police department has to undergo. They do not have funding to do that. For example, one of the requirements is 200 hours of online training. So it's really hard to hire police officers in Massachusetts as a consequence. And secondly, the very stringent certification rules is, in fact, as well. You just saw the news last week, I believe, that Massachusetts decertified 19 police officers, right? So at the same time, you cannot hire enough police. At the same time, you decertify them. I think that poses some threat danger to the public safety in Massachusetts. If I go to Beacon Hill, I will make sure that our police all officers, they will receive enough funding, and they will get right recognition and support from the local communities as well. So that would be my answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ray. Rodney, right now, Massachusetts has excess revenue of $2.7 billion, which came from the CARES Act. It's just sitting there. The state legislature is right now trying to decide how they're going to disseminate this $2.7 billion. How do you think they should vote on this? Where should they spend this money?
They shouldn't even be voting on this. This was a referendum the citizens passed in 1986 to return half of all over-grabbed money in our taxes. There's a little bit more than that, actually. The 2.7 is half. The 2.7 billion is what is due to us, you and me. The rest of it they can keep. What really frosts me is that the Speaker of the House, when this came up a couple months ago, he just casually said, well, we'll just spike that. We don't have to listen to what they want. But it was a referendum that we decided a long time ago. And it's just going to sit there. And what astounds me, going back to question one, they've got all this extra money sitting there, but they still want to tax a particular group of people for a little bit higher revenue. You know, we've taken care of it. If they want to keep the money and spend it on roads and bridges and education, it's not lawfully proper, but that'd be better than just letting it sit there. Personally, I'd like to get my money back. You know, I overpaid by $1, I should get 50 cents back. That's it. I mean, that's what the referendum from 1986 demanded. And they're sitting there thinking they can do whatever they want. I think this goes back to something I said earlier. It's a one-party system. And look, one party never showed up tonight. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Ray?
Sure,
How would
yeah.
you like to see that $2.7 billion spent?
Yeah, I think we need to follow the Constitution, follow the law. They should go back to taxpayers, their hard-earned money. One thing I want to add was that right now there are politicians on Beacon Hill proposing like special way to distribute the money, because if you look at $2.7 billion going to taxpayers, some people are going to get only $9. Some people are going to get over $20,000. So there are politicians proposing a cap at $6,000 for I forgot if it's each family or each individual, but the rest of them, well, you know, just maybe evenly distributed. And I don't think that is a good principle. I think they should, those money are from those taxpayers, regardless how much is they entitled to get refund. It's their money, right? So they should go back to taxpayers proportionally according to the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Karla, how would you do that?
I think it's pretty cut and dry. I agree with both Rodney and Raymond. The money, the law says the money goes back. The money should go back. And it should go back to the people that it came from. Whatever they paid in, they should get back. And the fact that they couldn't get this done is, is pitiful. It's just, they're again, like Rodney said, we're under the rule of the Democrats, and they can't get it done. They can't even get something that simple done. But, how they can take this into their own hands and change the law when there's already a law is very telling.
Thank you, Karla. Dr. Xie, you have a question from someone in the audience, a question about your town. And as a resident of Westford, will you also represent and support Chelmsford, since that is part of your district? The person is asking this question since Jim Arciero seems to only help the people in Westford. He doesn't seem to help the people in Chelmsford. How would you answer that question to the person?
Yes, absolutely. I have been knocking on doors in all 3 towns. And those are my constituents. Those are my voters. And regardless of the percentage, I think it's really a crime to divide Chelmsford into 3 or 4 different districts. Now you don't have a single state rep. And I've heard over again from voters that my issues, I brought it to this particular state rep, and he said that you belong to another district, and there's a ping pong going on forever. Nothing gets solved, and because of that, the Chelmsford, that you don't get increase school funding. There are many things that needs to be done in Chelmsford, but not got done. To me, regardless the percentage of people, it's the same. It's so important to represent all the towns in my district, and I will fight for you, people here in Chelmsford, to keep Massachusetts, to keep the district affordable and safe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Xie. Karla, I have another question for you.
Okay.
For elders and those on a fixed income, what would you do to assist them during this time of inflation caused by fuel shortages and product shortages?
Well, that's a good question because, this is something that hasn't happened in a very long time. And because I'm not already a politician and because I'm not already in office, it's a little difficult to answer that question. But we have to do something. We have to draw money. We have to have, special funds that we can go into. Things have to be created, I would say, at this point, because the money, I don't think the money is there. And, because this is something new, I think we'd have to look into creating a way to make sure that people are not freezing in their homes, or that we can pay these bills.
Thank you, Karla. Rodney, how would you help the elders during this stressful time of inflation?
I was hoping that was a question just for Karla.
Yeah.
As a freshman representative, there's little we can do. There are some things, maybe we can be a thorn in the side of the opposing party. When the inflation started getting out of control, it was put forward at the State House that they should drop the 24 cent per gallon gas tax just for 3 months. 3 months, give us a break. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't even consider it. Again, one party, completely veto-proof. They just simply did what they want to do. Another initiative that made very little news was to drop 0.5% off the income tax, just 0.5. And I'm honestly not certain if it was just off the tax table, which means you'd have to make it up later, or if they were actually going to lower 0.5%. But that would have put a few more dollars in the pocket. And let me, pardon me, let me tell you, I'm in that position. I'm an elderly, and I'm on a fixed income. I came out of retirement to run for this office. Social Security, just like many of you. So yeah, help would be nice. It would be very nice. We stopped eating steak at my house. We stopped eating 80% lean hamburger. We buy 60% lean now, and I got to tell you, that really stinks. I have a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches these days. This is very true. I'm not saying pity me. Our resources are short. What can the state do? Well, maybe they can help with a little abatement on the excise tax. Maybe they can help with a little abatement on the, that $2-some-odd billion we just talked about. How about if it just goes to tax relief for my property taxes? It's a way of getting it back a little bit. Basically, I'm renting my house from the town of Chelmsford these days. I don't have a mortgage. But I still have to pay many thousands of dollars every 3 months. A little bit of help. It should be a little hard. I mean, that's what life is. But a little bit of help someplace would come in handy. And the legislature has a lot of different avenues to do that. Again, what can a freshman representative do? I'm not sure. Like Karla. We won't know until we get there. And we might find ourselves completely marginalized. But I can be a pain in the ass. And I'm going to come after them. So I'll do what I think I can do, even if the avenues aren't clear to me right now.
Thank you, Rodney. Ray, do you have any ideas to help us seniors here in the community?
Yes, absolutely. I think we need to think about like short-term plan and long-term plan as well. Short-term, we need to provide immediate tax relief to our senior citizens. I think it might be already in Charlie Baker's tax relief plan, but like I think Karla mentioned, it's really hard to get through the Democrats-led State House right now. But hopefully that will be in place. And there is also the rising energy cost as well. So in terms of tax and fees, hopefully that there's some way we can relieve the burden for our senior citizens, even if it is just for 6 months. And I like to also mobilize the faith community as well. My church is in Chelmsford. We have 300-400 people. And people have hard to help senior citizens. So let's have that information available to the faith community and help the people in need. We can mobilize the faith community. In the long run, we need to think about how we can open more energy sources to lower down our energy cost. How we can have a tax reform bill that would make our state more competitive, grow jobs, and really help our senior, help the town lower down the property tax. There's one man told me he lived in Westford. One elderly, he would live in Westford for the last 60, 70 years, but he couldn't afford the property tax anymore, so he's moving, right? You heard this story over and over again, and your heart just broken. But there are ways we can do, and I will fight for our senior citizens to keep our life affordable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you. So another question from the audience asks, Chelmsford, Lowell, and other towns use the Duck Island facility for sewage control. This facility is near maximum. Chelmsford is at maximum. What could be done to help us? Karla?
Well, that's a tough question. It's too bad that this wasn't thought about years ago, that they were so short-sighted. Not being an expert on this, I would say that maybe the town should think about what they can do to relieve this, to I can't think of the word I want to use. I'm sorry, I have to I forget what I was going to say. Go ahead, I'm exhausted. I really can't say right now. I think it's a complicated question, and I would have to know more about the situation. Yeah, so that's
Okay. All right, thank you.
debating.
Oh, is it me?
Rodney, would you like to
Yeah,
address that
I
question?
almost want to say ditto to what Karla said. But the problem with sewer, so little money actually comes from the town. Everything we do has to be approved by the state, and we get about 90% of the money from the state. And the state gets a very large percentage of that from the federal. They've been complaining about Duck Island for at least 10 years. And they were complaining, and that's why Chelmsford now has 100% sewer lines, except specific places. And they said, well, the sewer lines will abate the problem with Duck. No, it didn't, because they just end up taking it and aggregating it back there. All our town engineers can do is take a look at the problem and propose something to the state. And to be honest with you, I haven't heard anything. Then the state has to decide, if they see a viable plan, if they're going to help fund it. So maybe as a freshman representative, we can help fund a proposal that comes from the town engineers. But to be totally honest with you, I'm in the same boat Karla is. I'm not sure what they can propose. I haven't seen any proposal from them. Maybe at town meeting tomorrow night, someone will say something. Who knows?
Okay, thank you, Rodney. Ray, do you have anything to add to this?
Not really. I'm not familiar with the history or the project, but I would, allocate experts and enough resources to do a full investigation and look at what town can do, what state can do, and let's go from there. Sorry, I just don't have a good answer.
Okay, we just have a couple more to go from the audience. It reads, "It's still politics, which will require collaboration and open-mindedness. How do you approach a closed-minded counterpart across the table?" Karla?
I'm not sure I understand that question, meaning if we were to
Yeah,
get
which will-
elected,
Right.
how do we deal with the
Right,
people
if
that?
you're, right, if an issue requires collaboration with the other party
Mhm.
and open-mindedness, how would you approach a closed-minded person? What would you say to convince them to see your side?
Well, I think that the more facts you have, the more information you have, is the best way to go. But if we're talking about politics here, nothing may help to get through to some of these people that are making decisions right now. One of the things that I plan on doing is trying to meet with as many moderate Democrats as I can find on Beacon Hill, and trying to have an open discussion with them about how they think things are going, and if they continue to vote the way they're voting and keep taking us down the path they're taking us, which is over a cliff right now, I really want to get in front of them and find out why, and what they expect is going to happen in the future with their their future, their children's future, and their grandchildren's future. But some of them, they're you're not going to change their minds, I believe.
Thank you, Karla. Rodney, do you have any
Yeah.
input on that? They're
After
swaying
years in
someone?
management, both at the government and private industry, the only analogy that comes to mind, and to be honest with you, it just popped in just now, is Brazil nuts. We've all had Brazil nuts. Toughest nut to crack. Nobody is going to open the mind of someone else who's like a Brazil nut. But what I did learn when I was in high school, you soak that Brazil nut in some brine overnight. You can get into it the next day. So it has to be done slowly and carefully. You're not going to come up to someone who's closed-minded and just beat them over the head with facts and opinions. And you're going to differ on things where other people differ on some things. But if you can just find some common ground, maybe that person likes to fish. I like to fish. Maybe that person likes to go bowling. I like to bowl. So you talk about that. And then eventually you'll get your point across, and you may never get your point across. But the point is to start a dialogue. Maybe you're the guy in the room who has to say, I'm sorry, first. And that's humbling. But if you really need that person's cooperation on something you're trying to get done, you need to go up and say, hey, let's go have a cup of coffee. Hell, let's go have a cup of wine. You know, but you got to start out slowly. People don't like it when you try to beat them over the head with a baseball bat with facts. They're never going to respond. Not once. People like it when you're personable, you approach them carefully and slowly. The first conversation you have with the person might just be, hi, in the hallway. Then the next day it's, hey, that bill you worked on yesterday, what are we going to do about that? Who knows? And you know what? It's all a matter of finesse and playing it by ear, being open-minded yourself, and eventually you get through. I've had people I'd never got through to. To this day, there's one guy at the Veterans Administration who somehow ended up 3 steps above me in rank. I'm really upset about that. He bullied his way into his position, and I tried to be reconcile with him. That time it didn't work. But on the other hand, I've got 10 or 20 other friends from the Veterans Administration who I still have on my email list, and we communicate regularly. So the fact that I lost that one friend saddens me, but I've got others. And we can talk to people who disagree with us. We can talk to people we've disappointed or disappointed us. You just can't turn around and walk away. That's all there is to it. So how do you approach someone from across the aisle who's closed-minded? Don't be closed-minded yourself. I guess that's the best way I can say it. And go slow.
Thank you. Thank you, Rodney. Ray?
Wow, it's hard to follow that.
Sorry.
No, I can, I can agree more with Rodney and Karla. I think we all need to be open-minded. Personally, I think I really love conversation. My wife was telling me, "Oh, you go out every day, and are you exhausted?" And I always said, "Yeah. I mean, when I ride my bike, and at the beginning of the afternoon, I was exhausted. I don't want to, talk to anybody. But once you engage in conversation, once it's a real person in front of you, and you always find something in common, and you always say the goodness and kindness from people, right? That's a great encouragement. That's why I love to talk to people. And second, I want to share with people that division is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because, in this world, it's too polarized right now. It's painful almost. But I was reminding people that division allowed in this free world is something we need to celebrate. Just imagine if there is a division in Russia, they may not invade another country. If there is a division in China, if the division in some other countries in the leadership, and there might be more democracy, right? So the fact that we have two different people, you always have two different ideas. There's one, I forgot what person said that if you agree 100% with me, then there might be a problem, right? So I came from that approach. I love conversation, and I learn a lot from my constituents as well. People I met on the street, I learn a lot of topics, and I just become humbly learning every day. So I truly appreciate those encounters. And I think eventually all the facts are out, all the truth are out. We will be on the same page. I do have hope on that. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Xie. Karla, I have another one for you. Do you support the expulsion of all illegal aliens, or do you think there are exceptions?
When it comes to illegal aliens, and they are illegally in this country, it's a tough situation right now because the administration that we have headed by Joe Biden is actually inviting them into the country. I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of years, but that's what is supposed to happen. And they are saying now that they are going to start returning these people to Mexico. We'll see what happens there. But if you're here illegally, I believe that you should be sent back. It's becoming a real burden on our hospitals, our schools, and we don't know who these people are. Most of them, we have no idea who they are. We have an open border, and everybody's just coming across. And our border right now is being controlled by the cartel. And a lot of people don't know this. That's the problem. A lot of people are thinking that all these people that are coming over are coming because they're coming here for asylum. But the statistics are, the number out there is that 95% of them do not qualify for asylum. And there's also a lot of getaways. I mean, there's like hundreds of thousands of them because we don't have enough border patrol because there's so many people coming over. So it's a really, really bad situation. And if we could go back to the stay in Mexico policy that what was in place and go back to finishing the wall, we would not have the problem that we have today. In fact, if the wall had been finished, things would be much different. It would be under control. We would know the people that do get across, that are still coming across, we would know who they are, where they're from. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So I hope that that something changes quickly. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Karla. Rodney, do you believe that there are some exceptions, that not all should be sent back? Do you think there are some that should stay?
Well, yeah, the short answer to your question, as you ask it, is yes, there should be some exceptions. There's some exceptions to everything. No matter how you feel personally, from a legislative point of view, you might have to do something a little different. Everything Karla said, I believe. President Trump also had a policy in place. It wasn't his policy, but he got the Central American countries to agree that you stay in the first country whose border you cross, as well as to stay in Mexico, which the current administration has completely ignored. Plus, we have no idea who's here. You know, as far as the southern border is concerned, we've got 49 points of legal entry, and a 50th in the process of being built. It probably is done by now. That number came to me several months ago. If someone wants asylum, they come and they ask for asylum. They don't wade across a river, because we don't have any idea who they are or where they are. Now, I'll go back to a personal experience. You've heard me mention several times of all the foster children we hosted. No fewer than 4 of them were here illegally. DCF gives them to us. We didn't ask. We housed them, period. Of them, 3 became very close young ladies, very close to us. One of them's buried in my family plot here in Chelmsford. The other 2 now have children, and they both qualified for dreamer status, which I thought was a good idea, because they were all brought here without their own personal consent by their parents, who were here also illegally. So there has to be some human thought process in the process, but someone just crosses the border illegally. Oh, the other thing that I was thinking earlier, I saw on NBC News a couple months ago that the Border Patrol agents were denigrated because they were putting wristbands, like the kinds you get at an amusement park, on the people coming across the border in order to track them. Then they said, well, they can just tear off the wristbands. Turns out those wristbands weren't put on by the Border Patrol. They were put on by the cartels who they were indebted to. Pink means you owe so much money to this guy, and green means I don't know what it means, but you know what I'm saying. A lot of these people are coming across and beholding to the cartel or to the organization that sent them. And look at all the people we found in the cross that had tens of pounds of fentanyl in their pockets. Now, forgive me, this sounds like I'm trading on a tragedy, and I don't mean to do that. But my oldest son died from a fentanyl overdose. And it was such a heavy dose. They found him with the needle still in his arm. He didn't even have a chance to enjoy his high. He died that quick. I'm not going to give you his name. He doesn't even live in this state. But, yeah, this touches me. And it touches me hard. Should they all be sent back? If you can find them, yes, unless they make a good case for themselves. But the problem is you're never going to find them.
Thank you, Rodney. Ray, do you have a stand on this?
Yeah, I think Karla and Rolly, they highlighted basically the main issues or the root cause of the problem. Right now, I'm all for immigration reform, but we need to close the border. To answer your original question, should there be some exceptions? I would say yes. Majority of the illegal immigrants here, I think we have over 200,000 in Massachusetts, right? I think they have been here for a long time, right? So I hear from both sides. But they broke the federal immigration law. So I think that's something should be resolved first. And second, I think Rolly highlighted that majority of the fentanyl, I believe the number I heard was 75% coming to Massachusetts are from illegal immigrants. So they are being leveraged unfairly. It's even a danger to illegal immigrants as well. I think right now the situation is very critical. It's very bad. I've seen Republican bills, immigration reform bills to solve the entire, to provide a more thorough solution to the illegal immigrants issue. But first, we need to close the border. Yeah, I'll just say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Xie. Okay, the last question of the evening from the audience, and it's very apropos to this evening. Karla, could you give a solution to the unwillingness of some opponents to debate their political opponents so the public can be informed about who they are and who they are voting for?
Okay, so give a solution to the
Unwillingness of some opponents to debate.
I really don't have a solution. I mean, you mean like there should be maybe a law that says that we have to debate, or do you understand the question?
The audience is asking, if you could come up with a solution.
I'm going to have to pass on this one. I don't.
Yeah, you can't come up with a solution. You don't know what's in someone else's head. I mean, I sent an email directly to my opponent about tonight. Are you coming? Thank you. Would love to see you. And he said, no, I decline. I can't do anything about that. There's nothing in election law that says you have to have 1, 2, 3, or 4 debates. Personally, I've debated with my opponent twice officially, and 2 or 3 other times, 2 at least, when we sort of ran into each other on the road. And I can tell you he didn't like it very much. But No, we can't solve that problem. We can't get into someone else's head and say, you got to show up. Because if we did, we'd be living in China. This is part of the process. And we have 3 empty seats up here. They think they're going to coast through to November and get elected. And the 3 of us who showed up are working our butts off trying to make sure that doesn't happen. We showed up, they didn't. And I suspect, I could be wrong, everyone in this room, with the perhaps exception of the Chelmsford TeleMedia folks, is going to vote for one of us. All we're doing here is telling you what you already believe. I would love to have an opponent to bounce ideas from. I've done it, and I wish I could do it again. But he won't. Can't force him. Just can't. But I'm going to do my best to run into him again.
Thank you, Rodney.
Yeah, I think,
Ray.
It's a tough question. Personally, I think there is opportunity in the future for law to request at least one debate. I think that's fair. I think that's fair to the process. That's more responsible to voters for them to get information transparently. And personally, I did mail a letter to my opponent. I also sent an email to League of Women's Voter. I suggested I'm willing to debate my opponent at any time and any platform he chose, right? So you got to offer yourself any opportunity they provide. Right now, I have a debate scheduled next Tuesday, October 25th, organized by League of Women's Voter. It's going to be an online meeting, but West for Cat is going to broadcast that live. So I'm very happy to look forward to that opportunity. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Got you.
Again, thank you all very much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. That concludes our night's events, and I thank you all very much. I hope everybody got well informed from our wonderful candidates here, and I hope you all
Thank you all
put your
for
vote
coming.
for them.
Thank you.